Check 1, 2, check. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. The Coffee and Biscotti Show. I'm your host, Crew Mel Bellissimo. Today is Friday, May 27th, 12 o'clock. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are smiling. And whatever kind of weather you're having, because God, here in the nation's capital, holy shitballs. Could we get any more rain? Really? Really? If somebody could make a phone call to the people who control the weather, could we say, maybe we got to sing that kid song, you know, I'm a dad, you know. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. So who knows, but I hope that the sun comes out because, yes, it is raining again. And I don't know if you heard, but we had terrible tornadoes here after the last show last week on the Saturday. Terrible. In fact, some of my friends that lived in the southern part of Ottawa are still without power almost 1 week later. And man, I can't imagine what they're going through. Some of them have, you know, little kids. And I mean, I heard that they couldn't even find any ice at the gas stations because it was all bought up. You couldn't even find a bag of ice to try to keep your food safe. So it's been a week. And of course, I don't do news. I'm sorry, guys. I don't do news. But I saw, of course, on social media, all of the devastation of this 18-year-old kid who shot up at a school in Texas. I don't like to talk about this shit. I know that people talk about it. I understand the importance of talking about it. I understand, again, that, you know, one of the comedians came on and said, you know, I really wish that politicians wouldn't push their agenda just because something tragic happened. Let's just worry about mourning. Let's worry about, feeling the pain that these parents are feeling, and empathizing and being there in whatever capacity, sending love, sending light to these people, because this is absolutely, wow, man, like this is devastating for me. It's devastating because we need to take a good look at ourselves as human beings in the mirror, because we really haven't changed much from the caveman. We just have different tools, and these tools are called guns. And so I don't want to talk and spend a lot of time talking about it, but I got to tell you, I'm feeling a little bit empty. Feeling a little bit empty with what's happening in the world. We've already come, over the past 2 years, dealing with something that all of us have never dealt with before, a global pandemic. And, you know, today's guest is couldn't have been at the perfect time. Because we're going to begin talking as we end Mental Health Awareness Month, the last show of the month. We're going to be talking about mental health and talking a little bit about a woman's journey in having everything, losing everything, knowing and really, really digging deep to know and that she required help. That she needed help, and she went to get it, and has come out, and man, does she smell like roses now, let me tell you. Special shout out to my girl, Franny. Franny, you didn't tell me how the interview went. I want to know how the interview went. What time is the interview happening? Give us the details, girls. Want to send a special shout out to her, and of course, to Vera. Sending you guys all kisses. Special shout out to Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer. I saw your post on Instagram. Thank you so much for being here. Jennifer, we need to talk about you coming on the show. We should have talked before about this whole mental health awareness month, but don't worry, girl. We're going to be talking, you and I, so that we can have you on a show as a special guest. So, my friends, we're here, as we are every week, to welcome a guest and to share her story of passion and transformation. I had the wonderful opportunity of spending some time with this woman in the most remarkable way. We met through a mutual friend, and this woman said, "You need to meet this lady." And I said, "Okay, I'm there." And I called her up. Here's this lady. Don't know anything about her. But I call her up. We chit chat. "Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?" It was lovely. It was absolutely lovely. In fact, my friends, not only was it so lovely, but this woman invited me to hang out with her at her place. And we enjoyed a wonderful conversation over some delicious food. And we got a chance to get to know each other. And what an absolute ball of light this woman is. Holy shit. You can't help. I'm going to bet you money today that when you see this woman's face and her smile, you know what's going to happen? You guys are forced to smile. You don't have a choice. She will bring that out in you. You can mark my word. But as I said in my post, I love me a good story. I love me a good story where there's a climactic point, and then there's the denouement. And then there's this change of, it's the ebb and flow, the peaks and valleys of life. And this woman has experienced all of that. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the return. My friends, I want you to think about this. So let me pose to you guys some questions about mental health for a moment. How does one know? How do you know if you're struggling with PTSD or, panic disorder or depression? How do you know? What are the telltale signs that you're in this space? Jennifer, you write feelings, nothing more than feelings. You're right. But my point is that how many of us actually pull the trigger to go and get the help that we need? How many of us can we put our egos aside so that we can go and seek out the help we need? Because when you get the help, thank you, casual distraction, anxiety, night terrors, confusion, all of these things. But the fact remains, my friends, is that we have to put our egos aside. And we have to look deep within ourselves and say, it's okay to ask for help. Thank you, Jennifer. I was just going to say it, because seeking support is strength. And this woman today, guys, left a 28-year corporate career to become an entrepreneur. Already, 1 point. Let's follow that story. And then in 2019, guys, so right before the pandemic, her world literally implodes. She was without a home. She moved 5 times in 20 months. She was hospitalized in 2020, diagnosed with panic disorder, depression, PTSD. And when I listened to her story, guys, I could feel her energy of what trauma, what pain she felt going through this time. But I said a few moments ago, my friends, I love me a good story. And I love the story when there's a turnaround and all of a sudden you get to see a woman who's rebuilding, who's back on the horse, who's in it to win it. She's a remarkable woman, and you can tell by my introduction today, I'm so excited to listen to this woman's story, because if you're out in the crowd today, if you're in a Twitchyverse and you can stick around and listen to her story, it's going to touch your heart. It's going to touch your heart, and maybe there's something in her story that's going to resonate with you. Maybe she's going to say something that's going to touch your heart in a way that says, yes, I felt that, or I'm feeling that, and I need to go do something about it. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in this little ball floating through the universe right now, get off of your comfortable seat and put your hands together for Susan B.
Oh my God. Wow,
See?
Mel.
You have to smile. You have to smile.
Awesome. You're awesome, Mel. You really are. Wow, what an introduction. Thank you. And what energy you have. And I just want to say I am grateful to you for the work that you do with this show and the light that you bring to others. And I can see by the engagement how loved you are and how many people enjoy the work that you're doing. So bravo to you. Thank
you. Well, as a former co-host of a radio show and and a YouTube channel, you know, sharing with Susan B. I mean, you're an expert at this yourself. So coming from you, it's a compliment, girl. So thank you so much. What an honor. What a pleasure. How grateful I am that you've decided to spend 90 minutes with us, Susan. You have an infectious smile that when we see your glowing, beautiful goddess face, you just can't help but smile.
Well, I'm honored to be here, Mel. Thank you so much. Now, I know you wanted me to sort of get into my story, where I was born and what I did.
Well, here's what I like to do. What I always like to do, Susan, is that I want to give an introduction to the people watching live and the people that are going to be watching afterwards to get to know this person, because we know we all have a story.
Yes, we do. Everyone
we all have a story
that would break your heart.
that would break your heart.
Yep.
But the sheer tenacity, the grit, the dedication, the not giving up. You see, Susan, that's what intrigues me, because as a martial artist, you know how many times I've been punched in the face? I've been punching people and they've been punching me back for 25 years. When somebody punches you hard, you got to have a lot of you-know-what to stand back up and face it again.
Well, I think we all have it in us, Mel. Every human has it in us, and we are tested, you know, put to the fire for sure. And I think we've all had trauma. We've all experienced trauma in varying degrees, right? We all have a trauma story. Some of us from our childhood, later on in life. I've had early trauma too in my life. But what happened to me in 2019, because of the period in time I was in my life, felt like it was the most dramatic thing in the world, because I wanted to take my life. That's how low I was. It doesn't get any lower than that.
Yeah.
When you don't want to be here anymore, you have zero hope. That's the lowest that I've ever experienced. And it's your typical betrayal story. It's not uncommon. A lot of people have experienced betrayal. Betrayal is a very jagged pill to swallow, and it going down, it destroys a lot of your heart. You know, these things are felt so deeply in the heart, and it's a human thing. You said, you know, meet a woman who has had a journey. Since I started telling my story, I've had many people reach out, men and women alike, So I like to say, this is a human thing, and mental health is health. I like to say that too. I struggle with my mental health every day, and I did to some degree before as well. And having gone through losing everything and being pretty much, I called homeless. I did live out of my car for a while as I traveled back across country. But to lose everything at 55 years of age, when you expect to be kind of not sort of meandering into the golden years or restructuring your life in a way that is perhaps easier and not so much grind as you had in those young years climbing the corporate ladder, you expect to be on an easier path, I guess, if that's the right word. So in my 20s, I would have handled it a lot easier, even 30s, maybe my 40s. But my 50s, it was wow. And to lose everything through betrayal. When I was hospitalized in 2020, I was hospitalized 2 days before the COVID hit. So I went into the hospital. There was no talk about COVID. And then when I came out, it was a different world. And I had friends who took me in, but they were hesitant to take me in because of COVID. And I just kept hopping around. I would like to say I was couch surfing, but I was spare room surfing, myself and my dog. It was a hard time. The hospital stay, I was there for a couple of weeks in the mental health unit at the Queensway Carleton Hospital in Ottawa. That day, and I self-admitted, they have to evaluate you, but I walked in myself with the help of a friend who I was staying with. And she said, Susan, you need more help than I can give you. My nervous system had been revved up for so long, I burnt my adrenals. I had constant panic attacks. I couldn't sleep. I had sweats. And this went on for months and months and months. And your body can only take so much. And I had suicidal ideation. I say all the time, my dog saved me. My dog and my daughter. I have a 32-year-old daughter who is an amazing human being doing great work in the world. And I didn't want to leave that legacy behind for her. So I think that and having to care for my furry son kept me from taking action on my thoughts. But the thoughts kept me in a very dark place. I was constantly crying. It was just, and this was for months, not just days or weeks, but for months. And when I went into the hospital, the toughest part, and anybody that struggles with their mental health and being in a dark place, is sharing it with people. You don't want to share it with people. There's a lot of shame around being in that place. And you also feel so helpless and hopeless. I'm the kind of person that doesn't want to project that onto others. Because I'm an empath and I feel everything from people, I'm very cautious of,
what energy you want to share with people.
Yeah, I want to share light. And I wasn't anywhere close to light.
But Susan, before you get there, what I want to know is because I really am curious as to the story of you growing up, because I think that what's interesting is that, we're going to hear a story and then it's kind of like a movie. We start sort of at the end of the movie and now we're going to go back to the beginning. And just like an executive director would do, So take us back.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I was made in Germany, but born in Brockville,
Okay.
Ontario. I like to say that I give credit to my mom, who's German. My father was in the armed forces, Canadian, and they met. The oldest of three siblings. Grew up in Ottawa, so I'm an Ottawan.
An Ottawan.
An Ottawan. There aren't very many of us. I had, raised by a single mom. My father was absent for, I think, from age 11 to 22. So the very formative years, he was completely absent. So that had an impact on me in terms of my self-worth. I struggled with that and still do. I still struggle with that. It's one of my things. And I wanted to be, believe it or not, Mel, I wanted to be a performing artist. I wanted to be a singer and an actor, but that was not something my family supported. So I kind of stumbled into a career. I stumbled into sales, and I actually built a very successful, almost 30-year career in this city in B2B sales, marketing, and business development, and worked with some amazing people who taught me a lot of things. And I developed skills and along the way. And the last 15 years, those of you that know anything about Ottawa, I was with the Ottawa Business Journal for sort of the last almost 15 years of my career. And it was a great school. It was a wonderful journey. And I was at the peak of my life, I think, professionally and personally during that time. But I burnt out. I was a very dedicated and hard worker, like many people are in their 30s and 40s as they're building and their careers. And I experienced a burnout. It was my first time I experienced anxiety. I also had dealt with a toxic work environment, some toxic people in the workplace, and some discrimination. And that, in the end, took me out. I magically had to get 2 new hips. I have 2 titanium hips. And I was diagnosed with having to get my hips replaced in 2014. So I knew that I would need to take a lot of time off of work. And I took that opportunity to leave the corporate world. And there's a lot of details in that story, but I don't think we want to get into that today. And I did sign a gag order, so I can't say much. But
right.
It's one of those stories that many women of my age and generation have experienced discrimination in the workplace. And, that anything that negatively comes at you for a period of time, Mel, will have an impact on your mental health.
100%.
Right? Will have, and I was very good at stepping it down, just forge forward, keep moving forward, power through, keep on keeping on. And you can only do that to some point. Something's got to give. I see it over and over and over again. I experienced it myself. I believe the reason why I had to get 2 new hips was because that's where my stress sat from the pressure. And I was responsible for revenue throughout my entire career. So there's a great amount of pressure from organizations when you're working on their bottom line and they have very high expectations, and you've got to keep winning every race over and over again. Puts a lot of pressure on people in those types of jobs. And it got to me. I was very unhappy. I was experiencing anxiety every day when I got in the car to drive to work. And I remember going to my doctor, my family physician, with a list of these are the things I'm experiencing. And I turned to food. I would eat like a giant chocolate bar every night and just calm myself with those things that, the tools that I had at the time. And I was making myself very sick. And he quickly, my family physician said, you're about to break. So you're burning out. You need to take time off. And I did. I took 4 months and I recalibrated. But the thing is, I went back into the same environment. So I healed and did a lot of things in that 4 months, built a toolbox, really started to understand what self-care was and make it part of my daily ritual. And felt really great. But then I went back into that environment. So the environment doesn't change, and you have changed until the environment grips you back again.
Of course.
And that's what happened to me.
Like the mafia, it sucks you back in.
It sucks you back in. Yeah. So what I didn't realize at the time is that would have been a great opportunity for me to look for a different environment. But I didn't. I still went back into the same environment, which lasted then another 3 years until I finally, needed new hips. So I I stepped out. I had a very loving relationship. I got engaged that year in 2015, and I had a very loving relationship. And then I left my career. We had a big discussion around it, and I left my career. And then I got my hips replaced. And then I went through a bit of a depression in 2017 because I was in a bit of a place where I didn't have that connection to who I was, who I identified to be in that career. You know, Susan Blain, business development, vice president, whatever the titles were. What I realized is I identified so much of who I was as a human being to what I did.
Of course.
Right?
As many people do.
As many people do. Innocently, and then that gets taken away. And when I unplugged from that, I also unplugged from a huge network of people that I was connected to. Some remained friends and others fell away. I had influence in my position. I was in management. I was often at the front of the room in big business events with hundreds of people. So there was this perception that I had influence, and I suppose I did. And when that influence was no longer available to others, away they went. And that because I have always struggled with self-worth, that took me down into a valley again. Who am I? Why have these people abandoned me?
Yes, of course.
I felt a great sense of abandonment. And that's also, from childhood, It's, again, like I said at the beginning, we all have traumas. We've all had things that have happened to us. And sometimes we don't realize, or we don't put the label trauma on it because it's not like we weren't beaten to death every day as a kid. We associate that to be trauma. But trauma impacts us emotionally, where it alters our identity in terms of how we see ourselves. When we begin to see ourselves as less than, not enough, not worthy to be loved, it's trauma. That's emotional trauma. And for many of us, it sits there for a very long time, and it affects so many things that we do. And I have, during these times of struggle, I have been fortunate enough, especially in this last one, boy, the depths of that was so deep that there was only two ways to go. Out, like out, lights out, or up. And through the grace of God, I chose up. It wasn't without the support of a lot of people. But I'll tell you, it's not like a light switch when you make that decision. It's an arduous daily grind, just like anything else is, to achieve some success in whatever you do. You've got to do the difficult work. You've got to do the work to get there. You've got to take the actions to get there. What was interesting, Mel, is that when I went into the hospital and I was diagnosed with panic disorder, depression, and later PTSD, it's the first time I'd ever worked with a psychiatrist, and I was a mess. I will never forget our first meeting. I was a mess. I had bubbles coming out of my nose. And she said to me, she was like, Judge Judy, listen, Susan, first thing, you're going to be in here for a while. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? The second thing is, what you're experiencing is trauma. So somebody told me what was happening to me, and that gave me relief. And I intently listened to every word that she said. She said, you've gone through extreme betrayal on many levels. Any human being that would have experienced what you have gone through, literally from one day to the next, somebody ending a relationship, taking everything away, money, home, ladling with debt. I mean, self-esteem, just brutal behavior that was projected on me. she said, anyone would be in your state right now.
Well,
So that,
somebody just wrote, Susan and I have been friends for over 20 years. I watched her struggle and overcome so much over the years. She's an amazing person full of light and love.
oh, bless your heart. You know, it's a human thing. We all struggle. When I did my series, the irony, Mel, is I was in 2019, early 2019, I decided I was going to make a mark for myself and create a series and self-fund a series uh, called Sharing with Susan B, and it's on YouTube, around vulnerability. The interesting thing is, I was in my relationship then, and there was no signs that this was going to happen to me 8 months later.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, so you launched Sharing with Susan B before the relationship was over.
I was building it before. So building it involved meeting 105 people to find 60 people who were courageous enough to share their struggles and their lessons learned. Not just, and two questions I asked them. What's your biggest business struggle? They were business people. And I knew that would be a tough crowd because you talked about it earlier.
Oh, of course.
Ego, I was there too. Nobody knew much about me. I kept my private life very private because I was always in fear that people would find out that I was an imposter.
Mm-hmm.
I had imposter syndrome all my life. And I found 60 people, started filming in May of 2019 and finished at the end of September. On September 14th, I'll never forget that Saturday, I had filmed with Derek Fage. He was one of my guests, and I went home. My fiance and I had this sort of monthly thing we did with our finances. So he said, let's do that. We were sitting around our big table and we did that. We completed it. And without skipping a beat, he looks right at me. I'll never forget the smirk on his face. He said, I want to separate. There was no discussion, no reason why, nothing. I instantly went into shock. I cried. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep for 3 days straight. And then it was a series of him evicting me out of the home, out of his life over a period of 7 weeks. And it was, it's this, these kind of experiences are difficult to articulate, Mel, in words.
Of course.
Because it's so painful for me, I'm very sensitive. So to have somebody who, we didn't have the perfect relationship, we had some issues, but to have somebody systematically and then learn that it was pre-planned months before. And this person was a financial planner. So it was strategically planned financially too, that I would walk away with nothing. And that I think created a lot of stress for me, being at that stage of my life and having nothing, and then being ladled with $50,000 in debt and not knowing how I was going to come out from all of that rubble. And I still had 2 weeks of filming left. Here's the interesting thing, Mel. When I was on my own or at home, I was so crippled with fear and sadness and loneliness and again, struggling to find the right words. I had the show must go on. I had work to do. And this had started off as an exercise, Mel, to brand me with this work. So it started off as a branding exercise. And very quickly, as I engaged in these conversations, sitting coffee chats with 105 people, then choosing 60 people, and then starting to film every week, having these conversations around vulnerability changed my life. It cracked me open. And then it became a social experiment, a social project for me. It was fascinating. The connection of the emotional impact that this had on me and my guests going through this process. And the pieces were only 10 minutes, 10-minute pieces. They're
Oh,
only
they were
10
very
minutes,
wow,
very
yeah,
short.
short.
We do like you do a quick backstory and then, talk about the journey into the valley and then come out with some levity and some fun. But for me, having had all those conversations and then to experience on that 14th of September, 2019, the most vulnerable that I have ever been. I I looked at how interesting that journey as I sat back and seen it unfold. And then having to sit in the studio and sit down with my guests, some of them, because I do storyboard calls before, some of them knew the state I was in. I had to cancel some. I cried on some calls. I was, sharing my emotion. I couldn't help it. It was just seeping out of every pore. But when I sat down, had my notes in front of me, and sat down with the guest, as I said to every single one of my guests, I said, this isn't about you. This isn't about me. This is about sharing. This is about sharing our stories of struggle in hopes that it inspires somebody else. I had that conversation with everyone so that we could, just before the lights and cameras went on. So, I reminded them of that and that was very important in my selection process, that people had the heart in it, that their heart was in it, that they were sharing from the heart, and that would make it more effective. And here I am now doing this so often now and sharing. I shared the series. I continue to share the series. I'm now working on a huge project called Dare to be Vulnerable around sharing our stories, our lived experiences around mental health. I want to bust that stigma. I want to break it down. I want to blow it up. I want that stigma not to exist because it keeps us from healing. It keeps us from helping others, because that's the real power of sharing, right? Number one, every time I share my story or I get an opportunity like I have here today with you, Mel, to share, helps me.
Well, I mean, and you can tell, Susan, look at already in the comments, our friend Casual Distraction says, I needed to hear this today.
Oh, I love that. And we all have a story. You said that. I love Amanda Marshall's song. Everyone has a story. Everybody has a story that would break your heart.
Yeah.
That's what makes us human.
Well, that's the human experience. Exactly.
It is the human experience, and we know it. And as you said earlier in the intro, this is a time in history. None of us have experienced what we have gone through in the last couple of years. And across the globe. This isn't in our city, in our province, in our country. It's global. And the statistics, as I am creating content for the Dare to be Vulnerable project, the statistics, I have to stop looking at them after a while because the statistics are heartbreaking. And I found it interesting because COVID for me was kind of a byproduct while I was going through my trauma. It was kind of there, but now I'm experiencing it. Now I feel it. Just this week in this city, because of the storm that you talked about that had such devastation here, the sadness, it permeates the air. You can feel it everywhere. People are tired. People are exhausted from 2 years of isolation, restriction, lockdowns, loss. I know you're going to have Don Lachance, the grief and loss specialist, one of my best friends, on next week. Man, he's powerful. He was instrumental. I met him just when I was doing my series. A friend of mine, like you and me, connected. A friend of mine said, you got to meet this guy, Don. We were at a coffee shop and Don walks by and he introduced us. You got to talk to him. He has an incredible story. And that's how our relationship began. And he's one of my best friends today. And it's about connection. It's about connecting with each other on a level that is emotional, is felt by the heart. And this work and sharing our stories has never been more important than in history than now, right now.
I want to go back to a couple things because there's a couple of things, Susan, that you've talked about. One of the things that very, very much touched my heart was this idea of, let's talk for a moment about this idea that we have, and sort of, how can I put this? We identify who we are by what we do.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to talk about that because you can imagine, Susan, that for me as a martial arts school owner and a martial artist for what we would call a life sentence, um, when I sold my school, I lost everything. My own mother calls me Crew Mel. She's my 86-year-old Italian mom. She says when she calls the phone, "Hi, Mom." She goes, "Hi, Crew Mel." That's what she calls me. So even my own mother was calling me Teacher Mel on the phone. And when that was gone, it was like, holy shit. Who am
Yeah.
I?
Who am I?
Who am I? I want to talk. I want to talk a moment and see if there's something that you can share about that, because certainly my advice would be, we are not what we do. In the
No,
same
sir.
way, that Michael Singer said in his book, one of my favorites, The Untethered Soul, that said,
Oh,
you
yeah.
are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that you have thoughts.
Yes. Yes.
So
Be the
can you
observer. Be the
be the
observer.
observer? Exactly. So
Yes.
can you tell me a little bit about that, Susan? Like, how did you get through that part, or what happened when you didn't identify anymore and you leave this corporate world?
Well, I went down, down, down when I realized that that's what was happening. It was a process, right? And then when I was in that part, I recognized why. And that's the important work, and working with professionals to help you to understand the questions you need to ask and answer yourself. You know,
Of
who
course.
am I? Who am I really? Am I?
Yeah.
It, it's not what you do, for sure not. It's how you show up in the world. It's the effect that you have on others. It's what helped me. I was stuck in that place, Mel, for a couple of years. I went through, like, 2016 was about surgery. 2017 was about, oh my God, what am I going to do now with my life? Like, 2017 and 2018 were like that. So it wasn't, there's no fast track through. I'm a processor, so sometimes I think I take a little longer than others, but I glean a lot of lessons that way when I take the time and do the difficult emotional work. You got to look into the corners. You got to look into the shadows. You got to ask yourself the questions. Purpose is what I found. Purpose is what now has allowed me to rise. I was without purpose for a lot of years. Even in my job, I was without purpose. I think I gleaned, what kept me in my career was connection to people. So that's what I understood about who I was. I was somebody who loved to shine their light on others. You're like that, Mel. You have that gift. You want to see people rise. You see the good in people.
100%.
You want to help them see. I did a post. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly. I did a post, and I love this this quote that call me crazy, but I love to see people win. I love to see people be successful. It fills me up. I actually need to be around it. This isolation in this period of COVID has caused me much struggle yet again. Not to the depths of what I experienced in my trauma, but struggle nonetheless. And struggle when I'm feeling it, I got to bring out that toolbox and pull out some things to use, some rituals that I have. I meditate every day. I do things. Meditation is a great way to connect with yourself and to start to answer that question of who am I? Because you said we're not our thoughts. We're the awareness that is watching our thoughts. The only way to really connect to that is stillness, quiet. So it was a gift for me that I unplugged and I went through that, oh my God, who am I? I'm not that person anymore. I don't have that influence anymore. So who am I? Well, I still have all that. I'm still that. It's just not connected to something outside myself. Now it's connected more to a knowing. I look at my daughter who's 32 and I'm 57 now. We're 25 years apart. How much more awareness she has at her age than I did at that age.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it seems like, and you know what I was told, Susan, in the world of metaphysics is that as the generations go on, there's a much stronger connection to spirit. That the younger generation has it, and that's why for some of them, there's this sort of need to, get involved in drugs and alcohol for some of the people because they don't know what to do with the spiritual connection. They don't understand what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not easy to be quiet. It's not easy to drown out the noise. There's so much coming at us.
Of course.
Oh gosh, so much coming at us. And for so many people, again, across the board, I see somebody said that they felt that COVID was an equalizer or equal level to everyone else, being isolated. And that's an really interesting point, because it is. And it's also the gift of COVID, because we all feel, instead of segregated, we feel connected because of the mutual experience that we've all had.
Well, and I want to read something that Mark in Sutton wrote. For me, COVID has put me on an equal level to everyone else, being isolated, and now I have a much bigger connection with the world.
I love that. I love that. That's the gift. There's also so many of us, on a daily basis, and if we're honest with ourselves, we have to be honest with ourselves, that we're struggling to heal from all that's gone on. The disconnection. I love that he feels the connection towards people. I do too. I savor when people, that's why I invited you over, Mel. I thought, hey, this is a cool guy. He's a lighthouse. And why not? Why not connect? We've been so disconnected, and there's a lot of virtual connection, but there's not a lot of physical connection. And I think we all crave that. I've been on my own pretty much the whole time. So I haven't been in a pod, except when I was, spare room surfing. I had some pods that I connected to during COVID. But there's been so much isolation from, colleagues, isolation from, sports. And, that, Mel. I mean, there's been so much that, and it'll be some time before we emotionally recover. There's social anxiety now. I even have a little bit of that. When somebody's inviting me to do something, I quickly, my default is, oh no, I don't think I want to do that. I don't want to go into a group, or I'm just comfortable here at home. I feel safe.
Yeah, of course. I've experienced a little bit of that, Susan, to be honest with you. And I'm a social butterfly and an extrovert off the scale. But this time has changed a lot. And once you go through some traumatic experiences, you do. I mean, it's the first time that I, in my life, there was a situation that happened where I didn't want to leave my house for a year. And I was stuck in a business and I had to stuck in it. I loved my business, but I was checked out. And so I can appreciate all of this. And I think, Susan, again, that's what drives me so, and I feel this closeness to you because your experiences are, although different and maybe in a different realm, the feelings that we experience are not very different.
That's so bang on, Mel, and I've said that many times, and that's what I recognized in doing the series, Sharing with Susan B. Every experience was different. It's like a fingerprint. No two are alike. Okay? My trauma experience of betrayal, as I've talked to people, they say, oh, I've been through a similar thing. I've lost everything. And I can appreciate that it's not exactly the same. No two experiences are exactly the same. But the feelings
Yes.
that we experience, the emotional impact, the emotional storm, the emotional intensity that we go through is the same. And then hopefully the lessons that we come out with are also similar. We have to take better care of ourselves. We have to put boundaries in place. Oh Lord, has that been part of my journey? I'm still transforming, Mel. I'm still moving through the process. I still get triggered. The heaviness of the city this week has affected me. On a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of my mental health, I've been at a 4 for most of this week. I'll tell you what, I'm close to a 9 today, thanks to you and this opportunity.
The Coffee and Biscotti Show.
Correct. And the opportunity to share.
Yeah.
And all these wonderful people that have tuned in and are also daring to be vulnerable and sharing. I hope we can see those chats later. I would really love to read through them.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why I'm so excited about this project, Mel. Dare to be vulnerable. It's not something I want to do. It's something I have to do. It is something I want to do, but it's like I'm being pulled.
Yes.
It's an amazing feeling to have, to take my mess. And there's a lot of messes in that big mess, to take that mess and turn it into a message. And
can you share a little bit, Susan, about what this project about? What's going to be involved in it? Can you share a little bit, even though it's sort of like on the down low for now?
Well, it's only because we're still working on the communications and the design for the look and feel for the messaging, and I'm working with an amazing team.
Yes.
who have stepped up because of their connection and passion for the work. So
we've also been on the show, Susan. All 3 of the boys have been on the show.
Wow.
Yes, at the same time. Yeah.
And so you just know my life is now on purpose. Purpose is the great savior. To find a purpose, and it's the purpose of serving yourself and doing the work and serving others. Dare to be vulnerable. Yes, Dare to be vulnerable is about engaging in conversation around mental health. Period. Full stop. Like human to human, not white coat to, although I'm a big fan of therapy, sign me up. If I was in a position to be able to take advantage of it, I would have leveraged that. The unfortunate part of my journey at the hospital was I had a psychiatrist when I was there that treated me and a whole staff, and I was medicated. When I left the hospital, in normal circumstances, without COVID, I would have been able to tap into an outpatient program and work with therapists and done group therapy. And I would have been a student-led. I love to be with stuff like that. Soaked it in like a sponge. Unfortunately, because of COVID, all those programs were shut down and I had nothing. Which then again, now that I'm sitting here, makes that even more interesting because I had to work and focus and commit that much more. to my wellness, to my journey to back, the rising of the phoenix through the ashes. I had to work at it. I had great support, but in the end, I had to do the work every day. I still laid on the floor in the fetal position a few times. I had to put boundaries in my life. I had to fiercely protect my mental health so that I could keep moving forward. And I'll tell you what, it is not for the weary. You need to want it. To do the work, and that's. I know I got off on a tangent there, Mel.
No, but I love it because like we're getting the comments in the chat. Casual distraction. Thank you so much for writing that. He wrote, "I'm still trying to find my purpose," and then of course our beloved Josh Leslie, which everybody needs a Josh Leslie in their life, says the fact that you are still seeking it is the most important part.
And I love what. I heard Elizabeth Gilbert once say. She had an interesting story of how she came to this thought process, because she used to say, find your passion, but not everybody does. Hey, I'm 57 and I'm on purpose now. It's never too late. But here's a great way to discover, to lead yourself, to guide yourself to possibly finding your passion. Follow your curiosities. Follow things that you are curious about. Now, there's never, YouTube. I say I could get a university degree on YouTube. YouTube has everything that we would ever want to learn. So if you're curious about something, YouTube it, Google it. Hey, Google, give you some information about this, and start to follow your curiosities. I guarantee you that if you're persistent and committed to following your curiosities, it will lead you to your passion and your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like pretty sound advice, Susan.
Elizabeth Gilbert's advice, so I'm just passing it along.
Well, that's okay. That's how information gets passed on,
Yeah, I love that. I love distractions. That's an interesting thing, because that's I was distracting myself with many things.
Of course.
Food, marijuana, television, just being busy. That's one that a lot of people are trapped in and they don't even know it.
Oh, I'm busy.
I'm busy, or I'm running a marathon. I'm running, or active in fitness. Everything in moderation is the way life is designed to be. When we are overactive in one thing, there's usually a reason for it. And my good friend, Don Lachance, when I sat down with him the very first time I met him and told him about my sharing with Susan B. and the project, and I was really interested in people's whys, he said to me, well, you know what why stands for, Susan? And I thought, and again, my self-worth, oh no, I don't think I know what what is it? What does it stand for, Don? Oh, wise one. And he said, it's an acronym. WHY. What hurt you? And when you think about it, Mel, what hurts you deep down inside is what drives you to do whatever you're doing, healthy or unhealthy. What hurts you is your drive. And then my friend Twan Nugent, when I told him that, because that blew me away, it was like, boom, what? Brilliant. I've been using it ever since. And I gauge myself on, my why. I know what my why is, dare to be vulnerable. I know what my why is because I know what hurt me. I know what years of suffering. And I want to lighten the burden. I want to be part of the solution. I want to be part of the healing. I know the power of sharing. I know the power of vulnerability. So guess what? I got to go first, Mel.
Wow, you got to lead the pack. You got to lead by example.
You got to go first. You got to go first.
I want to just bring up a couple things, Susan, here in the chat. First of all, I hope that at some point you connect with Jennifer on the chat. She says, wants to show off my being vulnerable skills on Susan's new show.
Great.
She said, Susan, you just called me out. Food, weed, TV is my current barriers. Yeah, and I love Josh. Of course, Josh wrote something really very beautiful in response to what Casual Distraction wrote, Susan, which was definitely at Casual Distraction. The only other perspective I would offer is that not knowing one's purpose does not mean that one cannot be purposeful in our
Right. Amen.
thoughts, our words, our actions, and how we show up in the world for ourselves with others.
Well, I think you are on purpose by
There you
doing
go.
that, right?
Yeah.
Right? I think we got to be careful that we don't give things too many restrictive boxes, right? Uh, and not to sound corny, but at the end of the day, it's all about love. You know?
Yeah, but I kind of feel that, Susan. I just wish that people wouldn't think that love was corny,
Oh, I know.
because
It's
that's
lo-
all that's my MO, man. Like this is it for me. If you
well,
if you want to do this and you want to have if you want to find purpose, then lead with love.
yeah. And love is a feeling. Somebody was saying, feel the feels, right? Feel the feels. Oh man, I'm not sure if I personally, because of my struggle with self worth, I'm not sure if I could personally ever call myself an expert at anything. But I'll tell you what, I'm pretty close when it comes to feeling the feels. Uh,
Yeah.
because I know the power of that. And unless I feel the feels, if I don't feel the feels, then I'm distracting myself. Guess what? The feels are still going to be there, and they're going to pile up, pile up, pile up, pile up. I'm going to have a panic attack. I'm going to derail myself. I'm going to fall down the rabbit hole. I know that journey. Done it 100, probably 1,000 times. So now I'm employing a new strategy, and it's not a new strategy. It's taught by the great teachers out there, right? And it's about slowing things down, being in the present. And life is always going to throw shit at you. I call them fireballs. Life's always going to throw fireballs at you. The only thing that we can control, or the only thing that we can do, is how we handle them. So I've now adopted, and I'm still practicing, I'm not perfect, is when things come over me, like this week, the sadness, the down, the darkness that I felt, the heaviness that I felt, instead of distracting myself, which I could have easily done in many ways, I just sat with the feeling and I shared it. And if I was talking with somebody on the phone, man, I feel heavy, I feel sad, are you feeling it? Like, I feel it, and just expressing that instead of keeping it inside, thinking I'm a freak, or, something's wrong with me, or am I ever going to battle this constant feeling of dipping low emotionally? Probably not. I just get better at being okay with it, because it's the human experience. Happiness and lollipops and sunshine is not reality every
No,
minute of every day.
no. But
Uh,
that's why I will tell you that there was one thing that was said to me a long time ago, Susan, and I said it on the show, I think months ago, but there's a difference between happiness and joy. You see, happiness is a state of mind and joy is a state of being.
love that.
Because happiness is wake up in the morning, you get a little nookie from your lover, and then you go to work, and then
What's
all of
that
us,
like?
right? And then you go, you get a speeding ticket on the way to work, and then your boss rips you a new one because you forgot the TPS reports or whatever the hell it is. And then all of a sudden that happiness is gone.
Yeah,
But what
crash.
you're talking about is something called joy.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about that whatever shit is being thrown, it's not going to affect your state of being, your joyfulness.
Yeah.
Because we know that all of this life is just about the experience. And all we can do is, and as quickly as we feel these feelings, we as quickly let them go.
Sometimes they have a pace of their own,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes, because we have less control over our feelings and physiology.
And depending on how stacked those have been for depending on what's been coming at you. And that's what we've been talking about, right? Over this last 2 years. And, you know, in this city, we've been hit hard too, in the last couple of months. You know, and then there's Texas, and then there's Ukraine, and there's just so much, you know, so it can keep us stuck. I find my magic elixir, one of the greatest tools in my toolbox, is practicing gratitude.
Of course.
That can snap me out of it, even make me smile alone in my own space. It can make me smile when I look at the bird feeder and I have in my backyard and I see a cardinal come up, or I see the squirrel crawl up, or, you know, I'm just grateful to be in a space like this, to heal, to recuperate, recalibrate, connect with people. Like, a lot of people are, you know, we're all craving to connect physically, but I have to say that I have, through the Dare to Be Vulnerable project, and speaking with about 60 people in the last couple of months by Google Chat, I have really enjoyed that. I miss the physical connection, but this is still connection just the same. Everybody that's tuning in today is connected to each other, to what we're sharing. This is so important, especially when we feel low. It's connecting and sharing is so powerful, and I'm grateful that I have people in my life, and now you, a new friend, Mel, that we can have these kind of conversations with, real stuff, you know.
Well,
this is real. This is what life's all about.
Susan, I always joke about you know, when I'm talking to some of the guys, because usually when I you know, I'll give you an example. I go to a place or a bar or one of the local watering holes, you know, because it's by the place I'm working and teaching, and I find it amazing that the conversation amongst men is about vaginas, sports, and cars.
Still.
Oh, and of course, man. I have. I can't talk about that stuff. That doesn't interest me. What interests me is the powerful things. It's these kinds of conversations. Yes. Because everybody is going to go, I don't know if we can say that everybody's going to go through some sort of mental health challenges in their life, because I believe we all will.
Let's say emotional struggle.
Thank you. Let's change the word. Emotional struggle. Exactly. Yeah. That emotional struggle will affect some sort of our mental health.
Absolutely.
And it's these kinds of conversations. You know, Susan, I have to say this publicly, because I don't make any money. I make $0 doing this show. $0. And yet there's something that propels me to continue to do this show every week. And it's the energy that you're sharing today, your vulnerability, your passion, your tenacity to go up instead of out, as you so eloquently put it, that keeps me doing what I'm doing.
That's the power that we all have, Mel. And that's the power that you are providing with this platform.
Yeah.
You know, that we all have the power to impact, to elevate, to lift, to inspire. I mean, in my bedroom, on a wall, I have the word inspire. Did you see that when you came over? I think
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. I didn't take you to the den. Yeah. Sidebar. That distracted me for a moment. I have the word inspire. Actually, I should unplug it because I think, well,
go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something happened on my end.
It's okay. You still hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Yeah. Inspire. I'm going to put my headphones on again. Sorry, I unplugged you guys. Because I shared that because I'm going to plug in. Sorry. It's one of the things of the many. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's one of the many things that I do to keep myself on track now. I have, quotes on my walls. I have smile, happy looks good on you. Change. Joy is my highest purpose. I am joyously abundant. Everywhere in my place is something. Root for yourself is on my bulletin board because, and like many people, I'm alone. I have my free companion, but I don't have that companionship daily to engage or to feed off of until I go out for a walk with my dog and I tap into the neighbors. Because it's the energy of others. It's the engagement of others as human beings that we need. We need to feel we're not designed to be by ourselves. We're not designed to be isolated. That's why so many of us, I see somebody mentioned in the comments, if you have 100%, if you're have been alive in the last 2 years, you have suffered, your mental health has suffered. Because we've been forced to be isolated, restricted, barred, right? And they've been imposed on us. I said a couple of times, I feel like our intimacy has been robbed while we were going through all of those lockdowns and, barriers. Gosh, at one time I'd walk dogs. That's it's been a wonderful healing thing for me. I love dogs. And it gets me out in nature. But I was a dog walker, and there was a time during the lockdowns that dog walkers weren't even allowed to walk. There's other people's dogs. I mean, come on, outside.
Ridiculous.
That's an example. Those restrictions just kept coming and coming and coming, right? And it broke us down. So we need tools. We need things that we do, not distractions, but actual rituals and tools that continue to help us get back to, as you said so well at the beginning, our essence, who we truly are, our human essence, right? It's not going to be found out there. It's not going to be found out in the noise. So we need tools that keep us on track. At least I do, because I can easily fall off track, because that's been my default for so long. That strategy, that way of being, where this latest trauma that blew up my life and left me homeless, helpless, and penniless. Finally, once and for all, it's not that I didn't understand those tools and those methodologies before. Intellectually, I did, but I never really put them into play. I never put them into practice as much as I have now.
That's called wisdom, knowledge experienced.
Yes.
But I love that, because what came to mind is something that I always share with people, that there's a difference between understanding individuality versus personality. And personality comes from ego, and individuality comes from spirit. So when you talk about that essence, you talk about this idea of individuality. So for my friend Casual Distraction and those that are watching today, that's what we're in search of, is the ability to share our individuality through our voice in a way that is purposeful.
Yes, amen. I love that. Preach it, brother.
Preach it. But really, Susan, you've covered so many incredible things today. I can't get through all of them, but I want to talk again very briefly about some of the other things you do and how you did it. Like you talked about being a dog walker, but what the Twitchyverse doesn't know is that you make incredible pies.
Well, that was part of the journey back too, Mel. I mean, I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. Um, I went through litigation. I lost all my savings, and I wasn't mentally able. People said, just get a job, Susan.
Oh, fuck. I hate that. I fucking hate that.
And I said, you know what? Welcome to Walmart is not even something I think I can do right now. I was not in a place mentally. I was suffering. I was suffering with panic disorder. I had anxiety every day, all freaking day. And then taking medication kind of makes it a bit cloudy. I was depressed. I was, I had PTSD. I had suicidal ideation. I couldn't get a job. I even if I could fake my way through an interview, I couldn't be there. I couldn't show up. I couldn't perform. I just knew a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or even a part-time commitment. It just wasn't. So I created my own source of income from things I love to do. And I have been baking pies for friends for years. A couple of my friends pay me to bake them pies on holidays. And one of them said, Susan, why don't you just start baking pies and letting people know? And so I did on Facebook and Instagram and and walking dogs. I have a vest that I wear around the neighborhood, and people started asking. So I had more clients. And but wouldn't you? It's so interesting. So it's not like I don't work. I do. I have technically 3 businesses. I bake pies, I walk dogs, and I'm building this Dare to Be Vulnerable project. And it's at its infancy stage. And I know you asked me and you wanted to know more about it. Maybe we can do that another time, or some people might like to follow me and learn, because I'm doing lives every week on the different platforms to talk about the Dare to Be Vulnerable project. And I'm about to launch sort of an awareness campaign sometime in June. So it's coming. But those things brought me great joy. I love baking. I'm not a big pie fan myself, ironically, but I have my Grandma Blain's recipe with a little bit of a Susan B twist. And I've got 14 different pies, and I cater to the pie lovers in Ottawa. And there are many of them who love pies. And it brings me great joy to create something for somebody that is savored and loved. And that's food. You're Italian, Mel. You know.
Hey, forget about it. You know what I mean?
Food is the great connector, right? And I've always had a sweet tooth. So I remember, years ago, just didn't go out on a date. And if somebody was not a sweet tooth or a sweet lover, I knew it wasn't going to work out. So you gotta love pie. So I like to do that. It's, something I love to do. And I'm the kind of person, though, I don't bring a bottle of wine to a dinner party. If you're in Ottawa and want me as a guest, you're guaranteed I'll bring you a pie.
Josh Leslie, are you listening to this, bro? Next time you're in town, we're going to Susan's house and have pie.
And you can choose. I'll let you guys choose which ones you want. And then walking dogs. So it's filled me. We talk about purpose. It's baking pies for a living. My purpose? No, but I love to do it. And, I only bake once a week. And then dogs. I love dogs. I grew up with cats. I love all animals. I'm Susan Azizi back here. Seriously.
I love that line.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Susan
and I love them. Dogs, I mean, they get me out in nature. They get me out of my head because I watch them. They're always in the moment. Animals, they're always in the moment. And so if you focus on them, therefore you are also in the moment. And I never fail. I'm like the mail service people, rain, shine, sleet, storm, I'm walking dogs. So I walk 3 days a week with dogs, and yeah, that's how I've supported myself. I've made it happen, and not without the help of some very dear friends. One of my good friends, Teresa. She fills up my freezer with meats from Slipakovs or Sazlovs. I forget which one, but she's always, okay, we're putting in a meat order. What do you need? You know, and I stopped saying, no, I'm okay. And now I just say, thank you so much. That's a big thing too, you know, to ask for help and then to receive with grace has been a big lesson for me because I've always been a giver and receiving has never been easy. Even receiving compliments, oh, my whole life was, you know, difficult. That's another big thing I've learned here in this journey through trauma. Another big thing, and it's now part of my being. It's like, you know, to give, you must also know how to receive.
Just lovely. I mean, just in the last 4 minutes, we're safe when you need them. Safe. We got to cut this down. That clip there, baby. That 5 minutes is what I'm looking for. That was the gold right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because Susan, you know, like this is it, you know, like you know, casual distraction writes, you know, he said something like, I needed to have Susan be in my life today or something to that effect. I got to find what he wrote, you know, but I need a Susan be in my life. Yeah.
Well, somebody needs a Mark in their life too.
And there you go. There you go.
Lean in, Mark.
You know, and so there's just so much there. And I mean, talk about, you know, how you use some of the things, your skills, even as a pie maker, and said, you know what, holy shit, you know what, I'm going to make some pies and I'm going to get some money from it. Fuck.
You know, I'm telling you, it was a blessing. It's a godsend. And, you know, it's interesting how things happen, right? Follow the things you're curious about, the things that you love to do what you love. You know, I know it's a cliche for a lot of people, and it was for me too. It's like, damn, stop saying that. I don't know what that is. And I didn't know what it was because I was so distracted by everything outside of me.
Of course.
And getting quiet is not easy. It's a practice, man. It's a practice, but I'm getting pretty okay at it.
It's super amazing. I wanted to give some props to someone who wrote, if I had a nickel for anybody who told me to go find a job, I'd be rich. Fuck, I hate that shit. You know, it's the kind of advice that I remember my brother telling me as a kid, like, you break up with a girl and somebody says, don't worry, there's lots of fish in the sea.
Yeah. Somebody told me that after my trauma. They said, oh, you're a good looking girl. There's plenty of fish out there.
Oh, for Lord, Thunder and Jesus.
Last thing I was thinking about.
Oh.
Oh.
I can't tell you, Susan, that this has been such a joy. I mean, I'm an excitable guy. But I'll tell you, Susan, there is something in your energy that just keeps me going. I mean, you really are a special woman, and I say that with every ounce of my heart, because you know that I've shared with you. I've even shared here my own vulnerability of some of the things that I've been through, and you know what the last 18 months has been like. A marriage, a job, a father, a friend to suicide, all while trying to build this incredibly difficult online coaching business of which I have zero experience doing. And you know, there's just something about you, Susan, that, man, I'm grateful for you, Susan. I'm grateful for you, and grateful for your energy that you shared with us today. I mean, I don't really want this to end. And believe it or not, we're getting close to 90 minutes already. I can't believe that it's you know, that fast, that, you know, that time has come already. But, you know, Susan, if there was something that you could impart with our friends that are watching, and you could sum it up to maybe a few things or a few points, or what would you impart, Susan? What could you say about mental illness and how to go through you know, how the steps maybe, or something. So I don't know if it's steps. I don't know if it's words, but what could you say was the ingredients that help you get through your journey? What were some of the ingredients? Maybe that's the best way of asking.
Well, and thank you for asking that. And you know, there's never a magic bullet, but there are some things that are pivotal in rising again, in moving through, in growing through our struggles.
Growing through, I love that.
Growing through our struggles.
Yeah.
The one of the main things is sharing, talking, sharing with others, being open, being honest, being vulnerable. Scary to be vulnerable, and there is such power in that when you do so, that not only affects you and empowers you by the fact that you had enough courage, and you got to give yourself cred. Like I give myself cred for stepping into that, going into that hospital that day and self-admitting myself. I give myself, that took a lot of courage for me to do that. It takes a lot of courage for me to talk about it. And it's easier now. But at the beginning,
you're the best, Susan. I love it.
But at the beginning, because that's what we're talking about, right? And, you know, when we're struggling, what do? Well, we never give up hope, even though I did. But did I really?
Right.
Right? But did I really? I felt that way. But I talked. I asked for help. I received the help. And then I committed to a path of wellness, knowing that it wasn't going to be like a light switch, that Dr. Kovacs told me what I was experiencing and giving me some medication and the world was going to be okay again. I had a road to walk. I had a path, and I'm still walking it. I still do my stuff every day. And I always will, as I rise, as I level up. And those are the things. So you've got to dare to be vulnerable, share, talk to somebody you trust, and seek help. If you're in a position where you've got coverage or you can afford a therapist, help them until you don't need their help anymore. And you can it's like a trainer. I would work with a trainer for a while until I was pretty sure I was comfortable with the routine and the things that I needed to do. And then I took it off, and then the work is mine. The discipline in commitment is mine. This is no different.
Of course. Wonderful analogy.
Right? It's no different. And you've got to have faith. You got to have faith. I have like these, like I could have shown you in my rooms. I have this little tray with these rocks that say faith, hope, dream. I'm constantly coaching myself. I'm constantly, okay, Susan, you know, not ignoring, not pushing the feels away, feeling them, recognizing that they're there, letting them flutter out, and then moving forward and, you know, stepping into purpose. Yeah. Serving others is powerful. Serving others is powerful too, right? Yeah. Right, Mel? I mean, when you're down, man, I mean, just what happened here in the storm, people say, yeah, so what? I lost an Adirondack chair that got smashed to the deck. Well, there are people who literally were sitting in their living rooms and their roof blew off.
Yes.
Or the tree smashed through their house.
Yes.
You know, and haven't had power, like you said, for a week. So there's always somebody who's struggling more. And if you can help somebody in some way, even if it doesn't have to be, you know, to give financially, it's just to give to support, to lend an ear, to say, how can I help? Show up with a pie, whatever it is.
Show up with a pie.
I've been known to do so.
Oh, Susan, I want you to show up with a pie for me. I want a pie.
You got a pie coming.
Okay, listen. What can we just? What kind of
pies? You
got
to wrap up now.
No, I just want to know the pies. I got to know about the pies.
There's 14 different pies.
Okay, can you list them for us, please?
I can list.
Hold on, Josh Leslie. Please take notes, Josh Leslie.
You can go to my Facebook feed, and there's also a Weekend Pies page on Facebook. But here we go: strawberry rhubarb And this weekend, I'll have fresh rhubarb to make rhubarb custard pie. Raspberry, blueberry, 3 fruit. That's peach, blueberry, and raspberry. These are all open-faced pies. Butter tarts, pecan pie with chocolate sea salt drizzle.
Ooh.
Apple tart pie, pumpkin pie. And then we get into some specialty pies where we've got custard, key lime, one of my personal favorites, lemon meringue, a very yummy recipe I have.
Oh, my favorite.
Oh, that's coming to you then. Butterscotch, coconut cream, and chocolate.
Oh, coconut cream.
Oh, it's a good one too.
Man.
So yummy.
I just can't. Josh Leslie says strawberry rhubarb. My
okay,
fave.
Josh. All right. Well, and you'll get to-go boxes so you can share, because it's all about sharing, right, Mel? This is like the fundamental lesson today is all about sharing. Let's go first. Let's share. And that's what Dare to be Vulnerable is all about. And I'm really excited to share it with everybody.
Susan, you just got your new tagline from Josh. Susan delivers happiness one slice at a time.
Hey, Josh, thanks. Love it.
I love it. Susan, thank you from my mouth to God's ears. Thank you so much. Franny says, can you ship to California?
I shipped to Edmonton and it cost me $100, but it's a little bit more than the pie's worth.
Franny, you're just going to have to come with Vera to Ottawa and have a hangout here, and we'll just have to go have a Susan B. pie
Let's
together.
do it. Thank you, Mel. Thank you for all you do, Mel. Thank you. Thank you, brother.
I have to say, you again, you really are just such an amazing human being. Thank you for shining your light today. Thank you for being this incredible soul. Thank you for being vulnerable with us and sharing your story. Thank you for being the light that you are and sharing it with us today.
Love that, Mel. Wow.
You're an amazing woman. Susan, I'm going to put you backstage for my final thoughts, and I will come back to you in a second.
Bye, everybody.
And I'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, another episode of the Coffee and Biscotti Show. Holy shitballs. That was a good one. I want to thank Jennifer for the raid, and for all of you that are from Jennifer's crew and fans for being here with us today. Thank you to Mark and Sutton. Thank you to, what's his name? What's Casual Distraction? Thank you to Franny, of course. Thank you, of course, to our beloved friend and brother, Mr. Josh Leslie, for always being here, always supporting the show. I love you, bro. Thanks. Sorry we didn't get a chance to connect last night, but we can do it again. What can I say, my friends? You know, just look at the shit that was talked about today. Like, let's just go streets for a minute. Like, there was some shit going down on the Coffee and Biscotti Show today. You can count that for sure. But I hope that there's something that touched your heart, and something that, you know, maybe something that really stirred up something. And you know, maybe you're not a dog walker, or maybe you're not a pie maker, but maybe there's something that you love to do, or maybe you have a skill at something that you can use to help you as you go through this difficult time. The fact that Susan used dogs to reconnect with nature is fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I get to swear. I know, Susan, you're backstage listening. I can swear on my own show. Because I make the rules on the Coffee and Biscotti Show. Anyway, I just want you guys to hear that. I want you to hear that, you know, it could be anything, but what a great way. Walking dogs to connect with nature. Because for all of us who live in big cities or the concrete jungles, I can't tell you, coming from Toronto and moving to Ottawa, how wonderful it's been to live close to a beach and an island. Where I get to go and see snakes and deer and beavers and all the people doing all sorts of wonderful water sports and kayaking and canoeing and all of these things that when you're in the concrete jungle, maybe you don't experience enough of. So go out and hug a tree. I would have never said this 20 years ago. I thought if you were hugging a tree, you were smoking way too much weed. And now I'm saying, go and hug a tree. Go and hug a tree. Because there's something about this connection with nature, the divine essence. If you believe in some sort of God and whatever you call it, this idea of seeing the essence of God in all the beauty that exists. Some may call it the Fibonacci spiral or the golden mean, the golden ratio. How you can see the golden mean in a seashell. Whatever it is that you need to experience, go and find some time in nature and find some peace. Dare to be vulnerable. Open up and share your story. Share it with people, because there's going to be a lesson for someone in your story. And you're going to touch somebody's heart by sharing it. And that's why this platform came to be. And for all of us, we all can thank Josh Leslie for that. Because it was Josh Leslie that said, Mel, you need to have a show. Your voice, your energy needs to be on a show. And you know what? We can invite guests on the show and we can talk to amazing people around the globe. And today, my friends, you got to hang out with an amazing woman in Susan B., who lit up our lives today. So take this energy and go and share it with your families and your communities today, because you're worth it. And go and share that love with others, because they're worth it. My friends, I hope that you enjoy your Friday. I hope that you enjoy this wonderful weekend. I just want to leave you with one thing, because Susan talked about the present. I said this before and I'll say it again. Isn't it ironic that the word present is something that you give to someone on a special occasion, but also happens to be the word for the here and now? And so maybe when we take a look at our lives, the fact that we are here is the gift that we have been given from God, the present. Go and enjoy yourselves a happy weekend. Josh, where are we raiding to, my friend? Give us the info, baby. Are we going to go listen to some cool DJ today? Where are we headed? Josh, let us know. But next week on the Coffee and Biscotti Show, Susan already said, Monsieur dans la chance. A grief counselor coming on the show next week. Guys, don't miss it. It's going to be off the chain. Make sure you tune in to the Coffee and Biscotti Show next week. Same time, 12 o'clock Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Today we are off to Malaysia to listen to musician and hilarious storyteller Raggy Singh. Friends, stick around for that. That's all from all of us here at the Coffee and Biscotti Show, sending my love from my heart to yours. This is Crew Mel saying, I'm out of here. Peace.